Okay, so let me scroll through. You've been asking questions. My clap sounds louder when there's less stuff fighting in the mix. What would you suggest? Might be a beginner question. Turn it down. Simple. I was thinking it'd be good to kind of maybe see about if anyone comes up with any interesting questions on things that I could answer in regards to production and production tips or anything that anyone's trying to figure out. I thought I'd dive into that stuff. So if you have any questions, let me know. Nate, give me a shout if you see any questions that you think are interesting. Right, Chris, do you think it's better to finish more tracks to get better or to try beat it into submission to get it where it needs to be, even though it's taking a long time? Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I don't think there's really a right answer. I think it can be really, really hard to be self-critical. It can be really difficult to analyze the quality of your own work and separate that feeling of like being excited and having really enjoyed the process of making the music. You know, sometimes I remember when I think back to when I was first making music, I think I'd be excited about the music because I was excited that I'd enjoyed making the song. I think back to it and the music was shit, you know? I think like it can be really difficult to identify what is actually a good idea and what isn't. So with that said, I do think it's just important to try and keep moving forward, whether that's on moving forward on just a few projects or just working on loads of stuff and just keeping kind of like sharpening your tools, just trying to get better and better at making music. I think it's just like anything, you know, if you were learning a language, you're not likely to get fluent at the language unless you practice it often and have conversations with people in that language. It's the same as music. I think it's really important to keep working on making music, learn how to improve, and I think things will get better. Or it won't, and it'll never get better. It's just, you know, it's just one of those things you have to kind of like figure out for yourself. And sometimes you'll have people around you that'll tell you, you know, this doesn't sound very good. Or some people, you know, or people point out that something's great that you think isn't. I think it's great to have people around you that you're able to share your music to and get their feedback and opinions. My clap sounds louder when there's less stuff fighting in the mix. What would you suggest? Might be a beginner question. Turn it down. Simple.
When you first started to gain recognition on your music, what was the thing that clicked? Are there production formulas or habits that you noticed really started to make a difference? I feel like I start so many great ideas I love and enjoy, but I have trouble finishing them. Quality issues, yada yada. Things are coming on here.
Okay, no problem. So, yeah, look, finishing songs is really hard for everyone because it's like one of the best things that I ever heard was no one ever finishes working on a song. You just stop working on it, and I completely agree with that. I can keep working on things for forever. Honestly, there's some records that I've released that I've actually changed the masters of on Spotify after it's been released because I was like, I still think I can improve it. It can be difficult to let go of things, but we have to move on. It's sort of I've said this loads of times before. I don't know whether it's like I think it's like a human nature thing where I feel like some people are like resistant to finishing things or resistant to putting things out. Even they're the two stages that I notice a lot of people kind of fail at: putting music out to the world, or even just finishing the song. And I don't know whether it's like a protection mechanism to kind of like protect against ridicule, because at the end of the day, it's quite exposing. You're quite vulnerable when you release music, you know, because you're opening yourself up to opinion, whether that's good or bad, often very bad, and it can be quite difficult for people to deal with. But I just think it's really important to just move forward and be bold and, you know, put your best foot forward. And that's what I did. That was one of the things that started to be unlocked with me. Was I was just like, I gave myself time limits where I was like, I need to make some stuff happen, you know, within this amount of time, and just send it out to DJs and, you know, hope that it starts to get played. And I sent music out to some really cool DJs, and they all started playing it, and it's just started building hype, and that's really what happened. Were you always planning to be a dance music artist when you started? Yes. I've always loved dance music. I love it. I think it's just the best.
advice for getting first track signed?
Make something good. Well, first off, I'll give you a reminder. You don't need to sign your track to someone. And I can see why it would be attractive to get a song signed to someone, but you don't need to do that anymore. You can absolutely self-publish, and there's lots of very talented artists that are doing that now and having great results. So you don't have to find a label. Having a label can be like a blessing and a curse. You kind of the economics for a label for releasing a song are really quite poor. I don't think most people realize how little money there is in running a record label. So if you kind of reverse engineer that and you start looking at the costs of what it takes to actually put out a song, you start to realize that, well, if the labels are not making much money, predominantly labels will do whatever they can to kind of keep costs down as much as possible, to give it the greatest chance of breaking even or losing as little money as possible. So I feel like what ends up happening is labels end up being like, a lot of people sign a record to a label based on their hopes of the best case scenario of what that record label can bring to that artist. And so often, like most of the time, like that expectation will not get met. And then you'll be left with that you've signed your rights for the record off to a label that is not doing anything with it. I call that copyright squatting. So, you know, they're owning the rights to your song, and they're doing all for it. That's really, really common now. That's not everyone. There's great labels out there that care. I consider Black Book to be one. I don't run it for profit. I run it because I give a shit about what I do. I think I'd hope that most people feel that. And but yeah, it can be difficult to kind of like figure out which labels are the good ones. I think if you had the choice between signing to a bad label or self-releasing, I'd always choose self-releasing. Always. Actually, this is a good question. What's your opinion on phones at raves? I mean, I don't really give as much of a shit as everyone else does. Look, I think let's just take phones in general. Let's take phones at a meal, right? I think it's good. I think it's a good idea to put your phone down and have a conversation with the people that are there. Enjoy the moment. You know, that is. And if you sat at a dinner table and someone sat at the phone, and you're at dinner for an hour and a half, and someone's on their phone for an hour of that, that's not good. However, if it's someone's birthday, you're at a dinner table, and a cake is coming out, I've got absolutely no problem with someone filming that moment. That's a really nice moment to be remembered. Isn't that exactly the same when you go to see Rufus and they play Inner Bloom? You know, it's completely feasible that they're playing an hour and a half set and you're having the best moment of your life. You're having the best time of your life, and you don't have your phone in your pocket. You don't have your phone out, and then you pull it out for Inner Bloom and you film the moment that is just like the best moment that you're having at the show. I think that's fine. There's no problem with that. Now, if someone stood there on the dance floor, f***ing around on social media or something for an hour or an hour and a half, that's not that great. But if someone wants to film one of the moments in the show, do it. I don't give a fuck. I have a music background, but know nothing about producing. But I have vision for tracks. Where do I start, like software-wise? Well, Ableton. If you have Ableton's a great piece of software. There's light versions of it. There's cheaper versions of it. That's I think that's one of the best pieces of software you can use now. There's others. There's Bitwig, which is probably maybe technically a little better than Ableton. I can't fully get my head around it, but there's Cubase, Logic. If you're a Apple user, then Logic's really good. GarageBand is free. There's loads of stuff you can make. You can make music loads of ways. Or try work with an engineer. That's another option as well. If you've got ideas, but you don't have the technical know-how, try to work with someone that does, and try and unlock your ideas. And there's lots of people like that out there now. This is a good one. Well, what was the context to you getting Noisy to change his name and sound? All right, so man, I'm trying to think what's the best way to explain this without sounding shitty. Basically, Okay, Jacob is really talented. I've known him for years. Noizu's real name is Jacob Plant. He's a very talented producer, and he was kind of like maybe around 2016 or. But at that point in his career, he'd made lots of different sounds, and I wouldn't say had the most consistent of like sounds as a producer. And he'd started sending me some stuff that was like more housey, and it was sounding good. And then I can't remember what year it was. Must have been 2017 or 16, one of those years. Skrillex called me, asking me if I would get involved with him to curate the Hausler album, and obviously I said yes. I ended up getting involved with it. But it was kind of like, it was slightly late in the process. A lot of the tracks had been chosen, and but not all of them. And Jacob had just sent me a track, the Laser Beams track, and it was called Jacob Plant Laser Beams. And basically, this is gonna sound really bad, but like, I knew that there was a preconception about what the music was under the name Jacob Plant. I was really confident that if I played it to the rest of the team for the Hausler album, that I didn't think they would connect with it because of the name. So I spoke to Jacob and I said, look, this is my opinion. I think you're building a sound here. I think you're developing something really nice. I just don't think it's going to make a lot of sense with the rest of what you've been doing the last few years. If you'd be down to change your name and like put this out as a new project, as a new alias, I'll play it to the team and I think it can work. And he's like, cool, I'll do it. And he came up with the name Noizu, and that was the first release, Noizu Laser Beams, and it came out on Hausler. And it worked out really, really good. And honestly, that conversation was not nice to have, because having conversations like that, if taken the wrong way, are really, really negative. And of course, it's like, should it be like that? Maybe not. But is it often like that? Yes. Perception is quite a big thing in the industry. And that was essentially what happened. And I've talked to Jacob loads about this, and it was like, he really felt like it was I think it was something that he might have actually ended up kind of deciding on himself, like later down the line. It just helped him that I was brutally honest with him, told him what I thought, and he acted on it. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened. So, yeah. Hey, I would like to work in the music industry, preferably be involved in the touring side, but I don't know how I should reach any artist. Just with a DM, sounds to me like not enough. I mean, yeah, when you put it like that, when you write it like that, it sounds like you haven't got a hope in hell. But if you've got certain skills, or there's something that you can bring to the table, or you have a certain passion that you can like show or explain, then maybe there's a way to get involved. But at the end of the day, like, there's not really anyone that's taking someone on the road just because they want to be on the road. It's expensive to take people on the road. And I mean, you'll notice, I mean, so many artists, especially smaller artists, are struggling because of, I'm sure everyone here has looked at a flight lately and realized how expensive it is to go somewhere, how expensive it is to stay somewhere. You've got to have a function or whatever. But I mean, how you actually get into, say, for tour managing or things like that, that comes down to relationships very often. If you could just show you've got some organization skills and can be responsible, they're definitely qualities that are helpful for tour managing. So that might be, if they're the sort of things you can demonstrate, then you just got to try and figure out a way to become friendly with artists to a point where they can tolerate being around you for extended periods of time, because that's really the reality of touring. Nate's a problem. But right, what do you reckon?
I mean,
he comes on the road with me.
The just wanting to go on tour isn't really the right question. It's, what do you want to do on tour? Tour management, do you want to be the front of house operators, whether you're a VJ, an LD, a sound guy? Do you want to be building stages? Like, start with what you find your passion in, and if it's something that's front of house related or stage build related, go to venues that are local, like see if they're hiring crew. Look around. There's a million VJs and LDs in all venues across the U.S. Be more than happy to at least entertain coming in and seeing. Mm-hmm. Especially for photography, it's like, reach out to your local venues. If that's what you want to do, take some photos, reach out to your smaller artists. You don't have to go for a Chris or a Sonny or one of the headliners. There's a bunch of local talent reaching out to and talking to not just build your own career, but build something with them. I think that's really important. And like Chris said, at the end of the day, if you suck to tour with, and you suck as a person, I want to tour with you.
Yeah.
Which is shocking because I'm still somehow not fired. There you go, Chris. I'll let you rip on me for it.
Nate travels well. He doesn't moan. He doesn't. Yeah, actually, you don't moan. You know that. Not to me, anyway.
I do it internally.
Yeah, I know. But honestly, so long as I don't hear it, I don't give a shit. And then, it's sort of like being on tour with someone's kind of like be like living with someone. You know, it's not easy to live with someone. It's the same on the road. You know, especially when you're tired, you're grouchy and like, it can be really, really tough. What's your quantization number when you make bass lines? Well, mine's a little bit of a cheat. I'll show you what I do. So I don't know why it's like this, but the Ableton quantizers sound different to the Logic quantizers. So I got a friend, it was actually Martin Eichen. Martin Eichen exported the Logic 16th swings grooves, and he made groove files for me, so I can actually use the Logic grooves instead of the Ableton grooves. So that's what I use here. I always have them set up in my project. Yeah, that's what I use. I use Logic groove. I just think it sounds better. It sounds different to the Ableton ones. I can never get things to swing the way that I wanted it to. All right, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this Q&A session. I think it's the first kind of specific Q&A session we've done. Do you enjoy it? Do you like this sort of stuff? I know I like it, so I'm interested if you think I should do more of this. And if you don't, then tell me. You thought I was going to say f*** off, didn't you?
Yeah. 100%.
Nate was convinced. I could sense it. I could feel it, but I didn't.
I just got blue balled a little bit.
You know, normally I'm coming on here making beats with mates and just messing around in Ableton, but I like talking too. I like being asked questions. I like answering them. It's fun for me. It changes the pace of things, and it's good to. I sometimes think I'm not a very good teacher, but if you ask me a question, maybe I've got an answer for you. So anyway, I enjoy it. Let me know what you think. If you think I should be doing more of these, put a comment down below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord. Details in the link below. Thank you for joining me. I'll be on every week. Trying to stream most Thursdays. So yeah, I'll catch you in a bit.